Traditions and culture shape who we are. Let's expand our horizons over a cup of tea. This is a Candy Factory Convo. Get cultured with Timbrel Kiathi.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Get Cultured. I am super excited to have our next guest on the show. Her name is Judelyne Bataille, and she will be speaking to us about the Haitian culture. Welcome, Judelyne.
Hello.
Hi,
Good to
how
be
are you?
here. Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Before I start, I have to ask you, what's in your cup of tea that we're sharing?
Well, this morning I'm having a mint green tea today. So I
Ooh.
think that's pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's
But
a
it's
great
cold.
start to the day. It's a little
Yeah.
chilly outside. But I do want to talk to you about your Haitian culture.
Mhm.
You were born and brought up many years in Haiti, correct?
Yes, for about 17 years.
Wow. So can you tell me about that? What was that like?
Oh boy, it was actually very interesting. You know, like growing up in Haiti, there's a lot of like good and not so good, but I love the morning routine that we always get to do because it's the coffee for me. I always remember there's this one spot that everyone would go to get their morning coffee. And, like in the morning, you get your coffee with bread, and you actually boiled milk, fresh milk, with your coffee, which is like super awesome. Like, I love the way they make the coffee. For me, it's always like the morning coffee.
Is it more of a coffee country than a tea country?
Yes, I believe it is more because tea actually was introduced to me after I left the country. So,
Oh,
like, we do tea different. We do tea more like for remedies, more like bitter tea than actual like sweet teas. So that's like
interesting.
very different. Yeah, like we drink tea when we have a headache or like any sickness, but they're always bitter, so it's never pleasant.
Oh, and would it be the same kind of tea leaves or would it be something else?
Oh no, definitely different. Like I said, they are very bitter, so they are made for a specific thing. Like if you're having a fever, if you're having a headache, menstrual cramps and stuff like that. But I know one of the tea that we like to do that is only sweet tea is the cinnamon tea. So that's the only tea that I know personally that I know I've drank in Haiti that was sweet. Other than that, everything else is usually bitter.
Oh, interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so growing up in Haiti, you were 17 when you came to America. What are certain elements of Haiti, the culture, that you really hold close to you and you feel like are very important for people to know?
And for me, the biggest thing is the music because I actually, when I left Haiti, I didn't come straight to America. So I went to Argentina.
Oh,
So music for me, that's like the only thing that I had, like that was the closest thing because that I couldn't lose because it was hard. I remember it was hard to find like Haitian food, but I had like cassette tape that you can listen to like music. So for me, music, I carry my Haitian music everywhere I go. And like when I'm sad, mad, happy, like that's what I always go to. I think that's my biggest comfort. So for me, that's it. Like I believe is the Haitian music.
now the music, when you say that, what are the instruments they use or what does the music sound like? It's like the Caribbean beat. Like, I'd like to know more about that.
We are the beauty about Haitian music is the fact that we are very, very mixed, right? It called compa, like this is our bass. So we use a lot of drummings, a lot of guitar. But however, it also can sound like salsa music. We have some part of it that sounds like Indian music too. So we have a mix of everything inside our music. That's why when I traveled, it was easier for me to adapt with certain music because I could hear my Haitian tune in a lot of different music. So I can have fun with any kind of song that I listen to, really. I love the Haitian music. Like this is
Yeah.
like my favorite thing,
So
actually.
when you said Haitian has a lot of different tunes and cultures mixed in there, is it also
Mhm.
because of the Haitian culture has a lot of mixture? Can you explain that a little bit with the Haitian culture and the people and kind of where they came from or just like, historically? I'd like to know
I mean,
more.
historically, we have a background of Spaniard, also French. We also have a background of, but our roots, it's African roots. Okay, so most of our Haitian people, we come from West Africa. And like when I even did my ancestral DNA, which I was like super excited, I find out I was like 59% Benin, which is like amazing. Like I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing. So and the African culture itself have a lot of different tune that they use. So I believe like when we were brought up to the island, every single like little tribe also bring their own different tune. So when they get to the island, they mix, those tune with the Spaniard, with the French, and we create if for me personally, what I call the Creole, like the tune of it. So it's like a mixture of everything. It's just like so beautiful. And that's the only thing that I actually have dear to my heart. Like I don't think I will ever let go of it. I play that in my house and just go crazy, dance, and my kids be looking at me like I'm crazy. But like I do that because I feel like that's my closest thing to Haiti that I have now, and no one can get that away from me.
Yeah, I think music is life, right?
Yes,
And
music is life. Yes.
it is, and that's so beautiful. Creole, can we talk about the Creole culture? Because I don't think many people understand the Creole culture. Can you give me like a Spark Notes 101 version of the Creole culture and how it came about, or just details about
Well, I think Creole is not just like a culture. I gonna go with my understanding of it.
it?
Like
Okay.
like I said, I'm 35 now, so I left Haiti very young. So there's a lot of things that I didn't know, and most of the things that I know now about Haiti, I learned them outside of Haiti by doing my own research and stuff. So I don't want to say that's what it is 100,000%, because I have to be honest. But Creole, with my understanding, it's more of the language itself. When I did my own research, it means created. So it's like a mixture, right? Because in the island, we had the Tainos, which was like the native Indians. So that's something like a lot of people don't know. So we did have these people in the island when the Spanish came. So we have our mix is not just African. So we have African in us. We have the Tainos, we have French, we have the Spanish. So we have like four different mix, and it's just like make everything together. So with my understanding, when you make everything together, it means created. I understand that's what Creole mean for me. So they could mean a lot of different things for Haitian, for different type of Haitian, but to me, based on my research and how I understand it, because we are mixed, so that's what I said. Creole for me mean created. It's something we pick little pieces, from different tribe, different cultures, and we make them together. It become Creole. It's our language actually called Creole. But we also
And
speak
that's what you
French.
speak? Do you speak Creole?
I do. I speak
Okay.
Creole. Yes.
Okay, Creole.
But we also have French as our second language, and there is part of the country, the people that are closer to the Dominican Republic side, they also speak Spanish. So it's just like very interesting to see when you go like to different part of the island that people can speak different type of languages. I grew up in school. All the books were in French. So you have to learn French when you go to school. That's how you learn French. But if you never go to school, you're not going to learn French. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
It's not
does.
going to be, you're not going to understand it, because if you've never been introduced to a French book, then you just know Creole. So there's people in the island that do not speak French. And, that is very interesting, like, I mean, my French is now like 20%, so it's not like so good at all. So, but pretty much we have like different languages in the island.
So here's a question for you I just thought about. Creole, there's also Creole in Louisiana. Now,
Yeah,
is that dialect the same as Haiti, or would that be different?
it's very familiar. So it's almost the same. And then one thing, in New Orleans, we are cousins. Yes.
Okay.
So like when I was like finding out those things, some of the Creole, I can understand some of their Creole, and they can also understand some of my Creole. It's just sound different, or the writing is different, but we are cousins actually, the
Okay.
New Orleans people. So there's like a tons of Haitian during after the Haitian Revolution that were in New Orleans, and they decided to stay there. So it's like that root, it's also a Haitian root. So it's not just American.
That's so
Like that's one
interesting.
thing a lot of people don't know. But there are more people from the north side in Haiti what we call OCAP right now, and they are literally just adopt OCAP as their cousin.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I do know that Beyonce is Creole, correct?
Yes, she have, she sometimes admit it, sometimes she doesn't, like what we all know, she does have her background, the
Okay.
roots, she does have that. But after all, we all come from West Africa. So that's what make us connected to each other. So if she go back and do her ancestral DNA, I can almost guarantee you she's from West. So we're just cousins.
Yeah, that's so cool. She could be your cousin too. You
You
never
never
know.
know. Yeah, you never know.
Okay, so another thing I'm interested about is the food in Haiti. I'd
Oh.
love to know more about the food. What's your typical lunch or breakfast look like? Actually, both. I'm hungry. Tell me.
Ooh, okay. So again, like different type of the island adopt different type of food.
Okay.
So I'm gonna speak for me, okay? Growing up, my breakfast was spaghetti with hot dog. Don't judge me.
I love
Boiled
it.
eggs, like you just like certain things. And that's like, I know it sounds crazy now, but yeah, spaghetti with hot dog or fried egg with like peppers, onion, and boiled plantain, and there is green salad on the side. So it's all depend like what you're in the mood for.
And
One
that's
thing
for breakfast?
that's my breakfast, yes.
Oh, wow.
Because remember, the one thing like we believe is the first food, it's always heavy because we have a long day ahead.
Okay.
So leaving to go to school, you leave very early in the morning. You don't really know when you're gonna have snacks. Like, for me personally, that's why I don't have snacks. I don't snack in between food. So I usually have my breakfast, lunch, and supper. So because we have a big gap in between those eating habit, so the first food usually is a big plate because you want to make sure the kid go to school feeling full so they could learn. So that's one thing, my dad always makes sure that we eat our food before we go to school.
Okay.
So that way with a full stomach, the brain function better for whatever reason. So that's what I was taught.
Okay.
But it's different for everybody. I think also it's depend of what the person can afford because some parents can just do the coffee and bread, like in the morning. And again, it's all depend what side of the island that you live. I was fortunate enough to be like more on the spoil side of things. So like there's a lot of things, different food that I really don't know or was never introduced to, which I wish I did. Like I would probably more appreciate them now more. But me raising in a more upper class type of thing in Haiti, that was my kind of breakfast. But it's not for everyone. You know what I mean? So it's that's my kind of weird
What
stuff.
about lunch? Is there certain like traditional food in Haiti that you would have for
Oh my
lunch?
God, rice and beans. Like rice and beans is everywhere. Like you can actually, you can eat rice and beans for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, but rice and beans, and we have this thing, like legume. It's a mix of like greens. You have cabbage, eggplants, like so many, like they're all smashed together. And sometimes people put like goat meat or like cow meat, and it's my favorite food.
Is it
So
boiled? Is it
it's boiled, and
Okay.
it's one of the dish that take a long time to make actually. So I remember like the our servant usually, if that's what they're making, they start preparing that the day before. So they start like cutting the veggies, preparing the seasoning the meat the day before because that food take quite a bit of time, yeah, to do.
Is it
And
like a
we
paella? No.
actually, no, it's more like of a mushy. Like, okay, so all those veggies, what they do, they put carrots, cabbage. There are some of them I don't know their name in English,
Okay.
which I've made it before here. So
Okay.
they mash them all together and then add the meat to it. It's like a stew almost, but it's a veggie stew, but it's more like of a thicker. It's really thick, so you
Okay.
can see all those greens in it. And they also add a lot of spinach. It's very, very, very healthy. But now I make it the more like vegan way. So I remove the meat out of it because I can't have red meat anymore for health purposes. But I love that food. So we usually have that with white rice and what we call sauce pois, which is like a black bean sauce. Like
Mm.
it's just like everybody, love legumes. So that's
It's
one of the food that I love the most in
it
Haiti,
sounds
actually.
delicious.
It
Like it's
is.
breakfast and I'm already thinking what I'm
I
gonna have for
know.
lunch.
Now I'm hungry. I'm thinking I should make that on Sunday.
Yeah, it's so yummy. You should have me over on Sunday.
Okay, I'll hold you to
I'll come to your door and
that.
pick it up. So I like to also know another thing that I think is very important is
Mhm.
misrepresentation of Haiti.
Oh,
There's a lot of misrepresentation in the
yeah.
news, in the media, and just people not understanding. Can you put some things to, for people understand some misrepresentations of Haiti that people have?
I think one of the biggest for me personally is that Haiti is poor. Haiti is not a poor country. It never been. And in fact, like from the beginning, we were the biggest export. Okay. Everyone used to come to us to get things, and we used to send things everywhere. And I think for whatever reason, we kind of lost that somewhere, which I do believe one day we'll find. But when you go to the island now, I think they focus on one part of the island. And that's what make me super sad because the island is, I would say, like 80% amazing, right? But they focus on that little bit that's like Port-au-Prince, which that's where I grew up. And I'll tell you, I mean, what they showing you in Port-au-Prince, that's what it is. But when you go to the outside of that, like the Okai, where my parents were from, I mean, you don't see trash on the floor. And in fact, you can get fined if they see you drop a little wrap of candy on the floor. I remember the first time I went there, I dropped a piece of candy wrap and I hear this police, like screaming. And then my dad was like, like it's not a problem. And I had to pick it up so they don't give him a fine. So there's like those part of the island, I feel like they're not showing them for whatever reason. Like I don't get into politics, but I really wish that people were more open to understand what they are being shown is only 15, 20% of what the island is worth. And actually, right now, there is a lot of different nationalities that are now going to Haiti to live in Haiti. And, but we're not talking about that. So the biggest misconception I really dislike is the fact that they say Haiti is one of the poorest country. It is not. And I refuse to believe that because it is not. It's simply not. And when you go to Haiti, skip Port-au-Prince. I
Mm.
challenge anyone that want to go to Haiti, skip Port-au-Prince, and then we can talk. Because
Mm.
if you go first, you go to Port-au-Prince first, then you will say Haiti is poor because it's all you see within that little square mileage. It's the same thing. If we're here, we just go to South Philly, we're gonna think the whole Philadelphia is
Yeah,
horrible. And
that's
it's not fair, for anyone.
true.
So, anyways, it's just like I challenge people. You want to go to Haiti, don't go to Port-au-Prince airport right now. Go to Cap. Like there's a new airport that just opened. There's like two different airports that open. Let's skip the Port-au-Prince side of it. Let's go directly to where it's actually happening.
Yeah.
And right now, if you go to Jacmel, which the Clintons own half of that, that's how beautiful it is. So that's
Wow.
that's their getaway part. That's their mention. That's their little
Wow.
life, and they love it. So there's a lot of Americans that actually go to Haiti and to retire in Haiti. So I feel like it's not being shown
Yeah.
as that. So
Yeah.
that's like,
I think it's similar to India, right?
mhm,
Coming from India, people are always like, "Oh, it must be really hard living in India." And like you said, there are places that, are not developed and that are struggling, but then you go to other places and there's skyscrapers and,
mhm,
huge buildings. And so it's just knowing the difference and that, countries do have
yeah,
both sides in every country, including America.
yes,
So
yes,
yeah, I'm so glad you said that. Another thing I heard, and I want you to kind of put to light is people say it's not safe, that it's a
mhm.
country that is not safe. So I like to just piggyback off of what you just said. What
That's
do
so
you
hard.
feel safety wise? Is Haiti safe?
Nowhere is safe. That's it. We are not safe. The whole world is not safe. So with that being said, there's part of Haiti, yes, is not safe. There's part of Haiti, me personally, I can't go. I will not go because it's not safe.
Okay.
Okay. But the safety of Haiti, though, the good part about it, it's not safe for Haitian.
Oh,
Uh-huh. But Americans, any other nationality can go to Haiti anywhere. They respect that. They protect them.
wow.
That's one thing we forget to say. Yeah, Haiti is not safe, but you never hear any foreigners that go to Haiti that get kidnapped. But
Yeah.
it's really, really, really the risk is really high for me to go back to Haiti as a diaspora with money to get kidnapped. I don't understand the concept of it.
Wait, what's
And
a Jasqua? You have to give.
a diaspora meaning it's somebody that live outside of Haiti. So like you live outside of Haiti for more than 10 years and you become a diaspora. So you're not just like it's not you're not original anymore kind of a thing. That's how I understand it. But it's just like some part of Haiti, yes, is not safe. And I would not encourage, people to go, but it's not for everyone because as an American, you are protected.
Yeah.
And the respect that you get there, and I was talking about that with my boyfriend Josh, and I was explaining to him, I said, like going to Haiti, you can go to Haiti, you're gonna be safe, but if I go, I have to have a bodyguard.
Wow.
It's just like that's the crazy thing about it. But it's just nowhere is safe, okay? That's what I'm gonna say. But there are places that there's no crime.
Yeah.
Just
That's
like
so
just
interesting.
like anywhere, yeah. But there's a lot
Wow.
of Americans in Haiti. Like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that
Um,
live.
so I have to ask now because my brain is just like thinking of all these other questions.
Go ahead.
What are some like really important elements of the Haitian culture? And when I say that, I mean like for Indians, family. We really, really respect family, and it's a big part of our culture. What are things in the Haitian culture that you think are very important and people really hold on to culturally and traditionally? Respect.
Respecting your elders.
Okay.
For me, I know growing up, everybody that is older than me or my uncle or my aunt.
That's the same
So
with Indians. That's
so
so
it's
cute.
just like, or like if they're like really, really old, they're like grandma or grandpa.
Yeah.
Um, I love the respect for my elders. I remember if my dad called my name, it don't matter how old I am, I'm supposed to address him, yes, dad.
Okay.
Like you don't just say, yeah, like like here when I call my son, he'd just say, sometimes he answers, sometimes he just say, yeah. So the other day I had to sit him down and explain to him the manner, how important it is for him to remember those little things, remember who's calling you, address that person with respect by acknowledging, yes, mom, yes, dad, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Those things I feel like they have gone, but for us, those things are very, 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 very important. Like respecting your elders, especially the older they are, the more you respect them. They are always right. Like it's just like, and they always said, respect your elders. It prolong your life because they know more. So you always have something. You can learn something from them anytime. It don't matter if it's your actual blood grandma, your blood grandpa, your blood uncle, and it's just you can always learn something. So growing up for me, respecting my elders is a priority. So today, when I see an old person in the street, crossing the street, sometimes I pull over to make sure like I help them cross. Like I did that yesterday and my son was looking at me like, Mom, you don't even know the old lady. I said, well, I want to make sure she crossed the street right. And I opened the door and everything for her where she was going. And he found it weird. And after when I realized he was watching and I said, well, I'm sorry, this is how I grew up. And I guess it's something that I do. I didn't even realize that I'm still doing it. So respecting elders is like, for me growing up, that was like the biggest thing. That's very, very important.
And I
And
think
second is family.
family.
Yes,
Yeah.
that doesn't go. It don't matter. You can fight today, blood, whatever. But when it's time and need, there's like you just show up. That's it. Like we don't hold the grudge. We can spend years without talking. But if I need, there's like a major need, I can count on anyone because that's it. Like family is forever. So we don't just like fight and never talk anymore. We make it up. Like when in time and need, we always like get together again. I
Yeah.
love that.
That's beautiful. And I don't know if it's the same, but in the Indian culture, we also have a lot of respect for elders. And I think the way you explain it is like wisdom comes from elders.
Yes.
And for us, the Indian culture, we always see it as blessings come from elders. So the
Yes,
more
us
you
too.
respect your elders, the more blessed you are.
Yes.
And so beautiful to see how cultures can be so similar, yet India and Haiti are so far away from each other.
Yes, yes,
Um,
we are. But after all, we are all one. We are like cousins, like if we're really good deep down. I just see us as a bunch of cousins.
yeah, I love that. That's so true. We are like cousins. We are more similar than we think culturally.
Yes, yes, culturally,
And
yes.
it's just so cool to like hear stories like yeah, that just make me remember that. I have to I know we're running out of time, but I still want to try to get as much out of you as possible. So another question for you, growing up in America being Haitian, how was that?
Hmm. Oh, it was challenging. It was very challenging. Because again, I left Haiti and then go to Argentina. So I learned the Argentinian culture.
Okay.
So now I carried two different cultures with me. When I moved here, it was very challenging to see how people treat each other. Like I couldn't really understand that, and I especially in school, like the how student treat teachers for me was like heartbreaking. How it wasn't serious for them, because there are people in Haiti that cannot go to school, and so when I came here, like I was always serious. In fact, I didn't have friends because I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna learn this. I'm gonna do that. But like it was heartbreaking for me to see that it was very shocking for me to see how a student can talk to the teacher, or they can come to school and it's just like falling asleep, or not properly dressed. That was like a really shocking to me. And the other thing was more of like how always the country is always like going fast,
Yeah.
like there's like fast, fast, fast. You're always like running. And that to me was like, okay, like I never get to see my mom because they work at nighttime and I go to school during the day. Like that was like something that I couldn't understand because in Haiti, everybody go to work in the morning and then at the end of the night, we all have supper and we all go to bed together. So breaking that from me that I didn't get to see my dad during the day, like for me to see him, I have to wake up around 5 o'clock in the morning before he go to work. That was a kind of like a something that I had to learn. But again, with me being very open minded, I was able to kind of unlearn and relearn very fast because if I didn't do that, I would just be like a lot of Haitian, be feel like sad all the time, missing home. So I quickly learned that. And then I was able to not adapt to the American culture, but understanding their culture so it doesn't hurt me as much. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was shocking for me.
Do you feel like there were times in being in this culture, just being in the area that you are, that it was hard to be yourself?
I was never myself. I'll tell you that. To be honest, I actually recently become myself 4 years ago.
Wow.
4 years ago, I finally said, you know what? Um, I can be me now. In fact, it took me a long time before I admit being Haitian. So most people thought I was Dominican, any kind of Spanish, any culture except Haitian, um, which that's one thing that I regret. But again, I had to let those things go and cover myself with something that I'm not, and other for me to survive. Because as Haitian, we survive. We adapt when we survive. These are the two things that I learned from my parents. Like, don't get too attached to whatever it is that you used to, because if you do, you're gonna get hurt. So I did that really fast. I adapt to survive. So with me also speaking Spanish, I'm very fluent in Spanish, so it was very easy for me to not admit that I was Haitian.
Yeah.
And it's just like I went through it. I went through it. But speaking Spanish helped me not to go through it as much. But I was never myself. I was never me. And but I'm me now.
That's
I'm
beautiful.
me
And you are adding so much to our world. So,
now.
okay. So I always ask every guest, how do you say I love you in Creole?
Moi, remel.
Moi?
Uh-huh. Remel.
Le meilleur.
Male with an R.
Le
Re,
Le
re, male.
meilleur.
Yes. Moi, re,
Moi,
male. Moi, re, male.
moi no meilleur. Is that
That
right?
sounds good. Yeah,
Okay, that's
that's
close
close.
enough. But thank you so much, Judelyne. You are an amazing woman. You also, I forgot to tell people, you are the founder of a spa located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania called Beauty by Judelyne, which is amazing. And you are adding so much joy and light to the world and just sharing who you are. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming onto the show and being who you are. So, yeah, thank you. And I just hope everyone got cultured today.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Get Cultured is part of the Candy Factory Convo series and is a proud member of the Candy Factory Collective. You can find the show streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And you can subscribe to the audio version anywhere you get your podcasts.
Passionate about uplifting people and supporting her community, Timbrel has made it her mission to connect and empower communities of all cultures. She is the founder of the social enterprise eco-sustainable brand Lush Bazaar, which is committed to sustainably made fashion and handcrafted products while providing fair wage jobs. She is also the creator of the Cultured Workshop, which focuses on the education of different cultures and traditions to understand diverse communities. In her downtime, you can find Timbrel traveling to new places or reading a book while sipping hot lemon tea with her dog beside her.
Get Cultured is produced by the Candy Factory Collective at the Candy Factory Co-working Campus in Lancaster, PA. Production support by Jason Mundock and Anna Tran. Administrative support by Ann Kirby, Ariana Henderson, and Krisha Martzel. Notes and links can be found on the show post at our website, candyfactorycollective.com. Candy Factory.
Collective.